Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Beyond Innovation. I'm Justin Sirotin, here again with my esteemed colleague, Lynn Rakowsky.
Excellent to be back, as always.
Always. Today, we have a topic that is very near and dear to us that we tackle kind of all the time, which is...
We do talk about it a lot, a little bit like a tennis ball.
We talk about it all the time, and then we have to put our actions where our words are and deliver this. So we figured we would pull a whole episode about technical storytelling. Storytelling for technical companies.
It's not easy.
It's very much not easy. And we are looking at this from a slightly different lens, I think, than the way that the typical marketing world looks at technical storytelling.
Yeah, I think most people, when they think about storytelling, they think about it as their high-level messaging points. How's it going to show up on my website? That sort of marketing-oriented storytelling. But we really look at it from like, what is the larger ecosystem in which the story is told? And so this comes into play in any touch point with an investor, a customer, a partner. So that could be a deck, obviously, but it's also what happens at a trade show, what happens with the product itself and how they engage with that. Yeah. That all is part of the storytelling ecosystem.
And I think where we've seen gaps in our customers is there's a big void between the words on a page, positioning and messaging, words on a page, with the way that the rest of the solution gets embodied so that people can understand it.
Yeah.
Because it's very, I don't want to say it's easy because it's not easy. It is easier to write a header, we are the best at the thing, and then dive straight into all of the technology that is underneath. It is much more nuanced and more powerful when there's a bridge between those two things that people can step into from their own point of view, from where they come from, and understand exactly how that technology helps them. So that's the sort of writ large subject that we're going to try to tackle here in the next 25 minutes.
We can do that.
I think so.
So we're really going to break this into 3 parts.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about the importance of investing in the team early that helps create the storytelling and who's connected to that. It will pay dividends. Why you should treat storytelling like a product versus a marketing function. And that storytelling really is about a long-term capability. So.
Great.
I think that should cover it, hopefully.
It will definitely cover it.
So let's talk about the team a little bit.
Sure.
Because a lot of times people will be like, here's my team. It's going to be marketing. I'm going to get my comms people in, and I'm going to get a copywriter. We're going to come up with snazzy taglines, and bing, bang, bang, we're done.
Yeah, that's, I'd say 80% of the time that we walk into an organization who feels like they're struggling with this, that's usually the primary makeup. Not that group shouldn't be involved, but when that is the only group, you certainly can feel it right away. You see it in the way that the content is built, that it comes at it very much from a marketing perspective, and it lacks some of the grounding that comes with when you're building this from a more well-rounded point of view. I mentioned this to as many people as I can recall over the course of the last couple of months, because a guy named David C. Baker, who runs a podcast called Two Bobs that I listen to all the time, and he uses this phrase that I have not forgotten. It really stuck with me, which is, it is almost impossible to read the ingredients from inside the jar.
I love that.
So if you think about what that means, that means when you're in it deep, doesn't matter what your position is, you're in it deep, it is very hard to understand how the ingredients that you've built expresses itself to the outside world because you're inherently biased. And with that bias comes deep knowledge, deep understanding for what is possible, what is not possible. But it's really, really tough to do this when you're sitting inside the machine trying to express it outside to all of the various constituents who you're going to be engaged with. And so oftentimes when we come into these storytelling projects, that first go is from inside the jar. And I got a deck sent to me 2 days ago. Robotics company, super smart people, really talented, already generating millions and millions and millions of dollars in revenue. Trying to raise a round. And you read the deck and you know right away, this was written by all the people who also either write the code and or try to sell the solution. Yep. Like it is so obvious in how it is written, and it misses the massive opportunity for what this technology can do for an audience that then can very easily understand how they just plug it right in. There's literally not one word about what the technology does for a customer. Yeah. It's a 22-page document. Wow. Not one word. Yeah. They've raised tons of money. They have revenue. They're on a good path. But to go from where they are to where they're trying to get to, which is millions to hundreds of millions of dollars in sales, that mindset has to switch, or you're just going to trundle along kind of where you are today.
Well, and that's where we often stepped in, or other people, to serve as that translator from technical capabilities into real world speak and opportunity.
Exactly. I think that translator role is the first and hardest one to place. Yeah. There are translator. So if we're sort of breaking down those roles, translator role is first and foremost, you have to have a translator. That translator is somebody who knows how the technology works, understands the market and the audience that you're trying to talk to, and can shift the narrative between those two smoothly so that what you end up with makes sense across the audiences that you're trying to reach. Yeah. And that translator, this is our biased opinion, should also have a very good handle on the macroeconomics of the subject that you're talking about.
I feel like you have to.
If you don't have a handle on the macroeconomics of the subject you're talking about, you are going to struggle to tell this story, because at the end of the day, we've talked about this many times, all of the things we do boil down to money. Somebody has to see a financial value in the thing that you are delivering, way beyond the technology. Otherwise, you're building technology for technology's sake. You're not building it for some outcome. Yep. And so that translator role needs to be, we have a handful of people in here who are really, really good at it, who can just sit there and understand the physics. They can understand the math. They can understand the economics, and then they can understand the customer point of view, the benefits that go out to that customer. And if you can pull out, they don't understand the physics in a way that allows them to build it. Right. But they understand it enough to go, okay, I understand where the boundaries are. Yep. I understand what's possible past the boundaries where you are 4, 5, 6 years into the future, and understand how that relates to an end customer. So that is number one, top of the list. If you can have a translator who's in-house, fine. Oftentimes that person comes from outside your organization, and that is just a reality of trying to do this. Yeah, and it could be a consultant like we are, or it can be a trusted advisor. Absolutely. It can come from a number of places. Absolutely. But you should find this person. Absolutely. First and foremost. We were talking about this as we were prepping for this, but it's the idea that, like, if you're an expert in a sport, you still have a coach. The coach isn't as good as you are. Otherwise, they would be the player, but they're not. Yeah. But they stand on the sideline and they watch you from the sideline, and they see something different than you see. That's why the coach exists. And good coaches make good players great players. Right. And That's the role of this translator. They're sitting on the outside. They can't be in the deep pit of knowledge. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to. Otherwise, they're on the team. They are a player.
Right.
So if you can build that separation, then you can use that tool, that coach, to really shape the story and make it sing.
But who are some of the other people that you need to have on the team? Like we talk about it in roles. We've talked about it as you need to have an optimist and a pessimist and, sort of characteristics of people.
Yeah.
How would you describe the rest of this team?
I still like those as roles. I really like thinking about these rather than thinking of them as functions. So if you think like, okay, baseline, you need people who understand the technology. You need people who understand the market. You need people who understand the finance side. You need people who understand the vision of the business. You need people who understand the past.
Yep.
But if you flip that around and you say, okay, but what's the attributes of those people? What do those people's personalities need to be like? Yep. You need a pragmatist who sits there and says, that sounds amazing on paper. That's 10 years and $50 million to build. So maybe
not yet.
Maybe say it differently.
Yeah.
Right? You need that you need that realist, that pragmatist. And you need to balance them with the optimist who then can sit there and say, if we push, this is available to us. And if those two have healthy tension and can debate freely in an organization, you can find the balance between pragmatic content that lets you understand this is what we can do today and it's valuable. And the optimist who says, yeah, but in a year, 2 years, 3 years, think of all the things we can achieve if we can build this right. And so those two roles are really important. Oftentimes for us, a chief technology officer is a pragmatist. A CEO is an optimist. That's usually the way that goes. But you have to make sure that you've got enough balance there, or else you're gonna index one way or the other. And what we see in the technology space is that oftentimes everything goes to where the team is comfortable, and where the team is comfortable is typically the technology talking about the technology and not talking outward to the audience.
Yep.
So that team structure of a translator, a pragmatist, and an optimist, ideally, and a finance person. If you can build your team around those four pillars, you've got the bones to go out and create the story. And creativity comes in pretty handy here, because that layer, once you kind of figure out who we are and what we're doing, then you have to figure out how to make that tangible for others, which requires lots of creative thinking that is probably outside of the norm for what most of our clients, most of the technical organizations we're working with, they're not built for that.
We talked a lot about, early on, we talked about investing early in this team and building that team in the very early stages. Mm-hmm. Like, it's never too late. If you don't have it now and you've been in business for 15 years, still go get it.
Yeah.
But investing in that early has been really impactful. And I think of the example of our client from the Institute of Healthier Living.
Yeah.
They weren't even a company.
They weren't a company. No. So
tell a little bit about that story.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Institute for Healthier Living is a group out of the Middle East that is building a precision lifestyle medicine as its core. So precision lifestyle medicine basically blurs the line between public health, epigenetics, data collection. Lots of medical health technology lives underneath, is the underpinnings for all of this. And before they were a company, they built a storytelling team. They had no money. They had a little bit of change, but they had no money, and they built a storytelling team. And that storytelling team included doctors, finance people, us, advisors who were in the wellness space, but not directly connected to their epigenetic research. And, in 30 days, they had raised $2.75 million.
Amazing.
And the reason, and I believe this, and I know that I'm biased because we were a part of the project, but the reason that we were successful with that round so quickly was because we separated the technical aspects of epigenetics, which is very hard to wrap your head around if you aren't in that space.
Still not sure I fully understand.
Very hard to have to wrap your head around. We separated that from the outcomes that happen for society, for patients, for care providers, from the way we deliver those outcomes. We broke those two parts of the story up. So we said, here's everything you're going to get when this is formed. Yeah. And here is how those things happen. And those two stories then got to be dialed up and dialed down depending on the audience. So if it's an investor audience with no healthcare background, it's all about the benefits. If that audience then has health people in it, health technologists / medical practitioners in it, then you can index that other side up a bit so that they understand, okay, there's credibility behind this team. They're not just blowing smoke. So that embodies this idea really, really well. They invested in that team month one. They were not an organization. They weren't even formed yet. That's the first thing they built was, okay, how do we tell this story? And so then in 90 days, you've got funding.
Yep.
And now everything is wrapped around how we tell that story. That story, I was just on the website yesterday as we were prepping for this, and there's a slide that we built in the very first deck from 2 years ago that is page 2 of the website. Mm-hmm. It's like, so that story stuck for the entire time. And that is the embodiment of investing early and sticking with it.
Yeah.
Because it never goes away. It doesn't stop.
Yeah. You might just embody it slightly differently as you mature and what have you.
Exactly.
So this is also leads into the treating storytelling as a product within your organization, not just a marketing function.
Yeah.
Marketing is incredibly important, critical, but it's not just about that.
Yeah. And I think if you think about, okay, if you're going to go build a product, how do you start? What problem are we trying to solve? What personas are we trying to solve it for? How do we ensure that our features and benefits are aligned around the people that we're trying to solve those problems for? So think about storytelling in much the same way. Who are we trying to talk to? What are the personas of those individuals or those organizations? What's going to be valuable to them? Just like you'd think about building a product. So if you're a startup, those audiences are investors, they're partners, there's customers, then there's some sort of general audience to help build brand. If you're a corporate, those are probably indexed slightly differently, right? Sure. It's customers, partners, maybe investors is still on the table. If you're a publicly traded company, investors are still a big part of who you're talking to. Yeah. You're just talking to them very differently. If you take the time to organize your storytelling around people who you're trying to reach, it will influence how you tell that story in a way that's really valuable. Mm-hmm. And that process feels a lot like product development. It doesn't feel like, well, should we change the back end of this word this way or that way in order to achieve a certain goal? Do we have, should our tagline be 5 words or 6 words? It's really more about what's going to get that particular audience excited. What do we have for proof points that we can apply to that audience so that we get what we're after? So if we're trying to raise money, we're probably going to index the financial side. If we're trying to bring in partners, we're trying to index how our solution makes their world better. Yep. If we're trying to build customers, it's how our solution can save them money, save them time, save them resources, make them go faster, whatever that is. So the pool of information just gets moved around depending on who you're talking to. And if you think about it like a product, it will completely transform how you go about this process. You won't think of it like words on a page that are lipstick almost for the solution. That becomes totally integrated. They're all connected.
You call it lipstick. I like to think of it as like the foundation.
It's the foundation
for everything that you're building.
Yeah.
For the storytelling ecosystem, which is so far beyond words on a page.
Totally.
It moves into the product itself. Mm-hmm. It moves into any type of I'm going to say touch point experience, which is kind of maybe a weird phrase, but anytime you're interacting with an audience.
Right.
So trade shows, phone calls, you name it.
sales teams, product demos, products themselves, all of it, all sort of then, we use this idea of like building a North Star for a business. That North Star should be really simple, really obvious. And if you do that properly, then all of the touch points that anybody engaging with the business feels, they're all pointing back at that thing that you've built at the beginning, which is the foundation that you're describing. And then the storytelling should support that outcome, should support that goal. So again, like being very clear about who you're trying to talk to becomes critical. So if you've built this team and this team has these 4 pillars, and then you overlay, here are our audiences, people are going to take the lead from that team for different audiences in different ways. So if you're talking to partners, that's probably going to index more technical. Mm-hmm. And so your technical person, your pragmatist, is going to be the loudest voice in that conversation. If you're indexing toward investors, they're going to be more about the future, about the financial upside. So now your finance and your optimists start to take a bigger role. If you're looking at this in that way at all times, you're able to sort of dial in for the audience that you're targeting with this group of, it's typically not 4 people, but 4 types of personalities that make up a team that go about doing this process.
Yeah. There's an example that everybody's heard a lot about.
Of course.
That I think does tell that very well.
I would agree.
Can you expand on it?
So we were looking at Starlink as a reference point. And what Starlink does a really good job of, if you go through their web content, which is the easiest place to experience this, is you can see where they have technical content, where they really start digging into the depths of how their thing works.
Yeah. I mean, that's all laser crosslinks and phased array antennas. Exactly. And,
And then you can ladder up and you can see we bring internet to everywhere. So if we bring internet to everywhere is sort of the baseline. This is the foundation. This is what we're doing. We bring internet to everywhere. All of that technical information, somebody needs that somewhere in their storytelling so that they can know how to engage with internet for everyone. Then you move out to the customer side and you can see somebody camping, somebody on a kayak, somebody up on the top of a mountain, somebody in their house. And they have a really excellent video, which I hadn't seen before until we started digging around, which is really cool, where they literally unbox it, plug it in. Okay, it looks like they're connecting a phone. Whether they are or they aren't, it doesn't matter. And then all the person does is just hold their phone up to the camera, and you see the bandwidth. Yeah. And I have no idea where they are.
Fast, easy.
Wow. 30-second video. Yeah. Tells this incredible story about, I just turned that on, plugged it in. It's literally got like this janky extension cord. It's not even like they're not even trying
it's like
to
the
make
one I have in my basement.
Yeah. They're not even trying to make it fancy. Plug it in, hold it up, done. Yeah. And like, that's storytelling. That's like, you didn't have to tell anybody anything. They walked into that video and in 30 seconds went, I should probably think about this. And the amount of work, the amount of computer science, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, physics, never mind putting satellites in, like, holy shit, that's a lot of work. And it distills down to a 30-second video, plug it in, show the bandwidth. Like, that is great storytelling. Yeah. And how many companies do we see where somebody just blathers on about all of the technical capabilities of a thing that they're doing instead of just showing you, there it is, it does it. Mm-hmm. And the ecosystem that you mentioned before, that's where this becomes so incredibly important. Yeah. Because it's how you get people to understand these ideas from all layers, all areas you're trying to communicate to in a way that's quick and very obvious.
Yeah. We have a longtime client of ours, Utilidata, which brings AI technology to the grid edge. which means they are processing data information, they're monitoring waveforms at the edge and will allow decisions to be made at the edge versus sending it to a central processing, right? So faster, better, help manage this crazy old infrastructure.
All really good.
And one of the things that we worked with them on was building this demo environment for, okay, so what does that mean? Because people are like, yeah, sounds great, but what are we talking about here? And so we build this demo that shows on a map how you are identifying electric vehicles and the impact on it, how you identify solar and the impact, how you identify anomalies and what that could be, how that allows you to dispatch trucks quicker, faster, better, all in a simulated environment bounded on real data from a pilot that they're running somewhere. But that brings the whole thing to life. That was a story.
Right.
That was built to tell the story of their product.
Because the product lives in an API.
Yeah.
And you can't watch an API. You can't experience an API. You can't touch an API. So you got to get it out of the API. And you got to let people... the word experience, I think, has been overused at this point. But you literally have to let them tangibly feel what it is that this thing does.
Yeah.
And the way that we did that was through a really excellent demo environment that allows people to come up and see, if this happens, then that happens. If this happens, then that happens. Oh, this is great. Yeah. How do I access it? Here's the API.
Yeah.
So that's where you get this linking between a storytelling effort, a solution, and an experience that allows people to grasp those two things all at the same time. And it happens like we only have a couple minutes to give them this very complicated story. You only have a couple of minutes. And I think that's something that oftentimes gets lost in this is like, you don't have a lot of time. You don't have a lot of time to tell someone why they should be sitting there with you, because you're going to lose them in minutes, not hours. You're going to lose them in minutes if you can't demonstrate this really quickly so they sit up in their seat and go, okay, I want to know more. Then once they sit up, then you can dig into the technical specifications of what it is that you're building. But if you can't get that person to sit up and put their phone down and look right at you and say, okay, I'm really interested. I want to know more. If you miss that window, it's very hard to get them back, because then they're predisposed to think something different of what it is that you're delivering. Yeah.
One of the sort of the final point to talk about today, because I know we're looking to keep these things tight.
Yeah.
Is how this really is about creating this as a long-term capability within your organization because of the impact that this can have on the basic pillars of building a company.
Yeah. I mean, I think coming back to Utilidata, we've been working with them for almost 6 years. And they've done a really good job of using storytelling and the techniques of storytelling to both shape who they are publicly, but also what they build internally. Yeah. Because the feedback loop that gets built by this is super valuable. And if you're listening to what comes out from your storytelling, you're able to then shape what it is that you build and create this flywheel of a process that then lets you always orient toward where the market is talking to you, or how those signals are coming back. And creating that as a culture of a company is extremely hard, because most companies that are founded, I don't know, I'm going to pick on physicists for a minute, because I think that it's not pick on, but I'm just going to say, if you're sitting in a company and there are physicists in the room, you need to make sure that you have good storytelling because those ideas tend to be so complex that the sliver of people who can grasp what's happening is so small that it's hard to express those ideas in a concrete, tangible way. And we happen to work with a lot of companies who have a lot of brilliant physicists in the room. Yeah. And you feel it right away. Like, that person sits down and they start talking and you just go, okay, they know a lot of things that I don't know. And I am going to then sit here and try to figure out how do I express their knowledge to the semi-lay person so that they can grasp what it is valuable about what's being built. And that, if you treat that in the long run, that helps the physicist do their job better, just like it helps the salesperson sell whatever it is that they make. Yeah. And there's this learning process that happens within these groups, and we've seen it year over year over year, whereby you're helping to position things for go-to-market. You're helping position things from a product performance, benefits, solution standpoint. Mm-hmm. You're figuring out how you express those ideas in a public space, how you express those into investors, how you express those into partners. And if it's done right, that ecosystem of people and ideas becomes really tightly connected. Yeah. And it's the most powerful version of this is when you feel that happening. You're in a quote unquote community of people who are all then focused on the same goal, and they're just doing it from their expertise, from their point of expertise. And it becomes, it is pretty, I don't want to use the word, well, it's over dramatized to say it's pretty magical, but it really is. Like you just see it build.
Well, you get the aha moments from the people in the organization, from the physicists who are like, oh yeah, you keep saying to me like, so
a little skeptical.
So what?
Yeah.
It forces them to think about what they're doing differently because their excitement and enthusiasm often comes from, I just solved a really complex technical problem. Yeah. And that's really all I care about.
That was fun.
Yeah. But you also want this business to succeed. You want it to have longevity. So it brings about
that's a really good point.
A mental change and shift.
I think it's a really good point. I mean, you and I were in a meeting a couple of months ago where we were asking somebody what's getting you the most excited about this, and the answer was super hard problem to solve. And we're thinking like, if this gets solved correctly, the most exciting thing is this totally changes this particular category. It completely changes this category. So our point of view was, this is
the potential.
This is a category-changing technology that you are working on, and this happened to be a double E on the other side. Yeah. His point of view was, wow, this is going to be so fun to try to solve this problem. Yeah. But like, that's great. You want that person to be really excited about solving the problem, and you need people who then can express that into, this is also going to change a gigantic, multi-billion-dollar market that's currently making a big mess of the world. Let's address that. Yeah. So I think that's a really good point about how this whole thing comes together. Yeah.
So I think if you're walking away from this episode and you sit in the complex technical product solution space, walk away with this. Build your team early. Mm-hmm. And this is a broad team. Find that translator, bring the right people to the table. Recognize that storytelling should be treated like a product, which means it doesn't go away. It's not just a marketing function. It informs everything that you do, and keep at it. Think about that. It's going to affect your go-to-market, your fundraising, your partnership strategies, 100%. How you show up in the world.
100%. I think you could not have summarized it better.
Any other thoughts?
No, this was great.
Good times.
Good times.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.